بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. We move forward with dars number 10, and moving forward we are talking about the wasa'il, or the means that are employed by Dawlat al-Qur'an. So the next topic is mawdu' al-wasa'il. Okay, if we were to analyze every single means we can employ in the Sharia, okay, we would be here till next end of our lifetime. And on top of that, we would see that there's an enormous difference between al-Dawla al-Islamiyya versus a secular or a theocratic state. Okay, but because it would be way too exhausting and impractical to do so, we will focus on a couple prominent examples in order to see how different it is in fact, inshallah. Okay, number one, the example of democracy. Some of the brothers failed to understand this yesterday. They thought we were in a democracy with the whole voting situation. Okay? Democracy as a means of governance. Okay? Have you guys ever heard that democracy exists within Islam?
Amongst the Shura?
Democracy is like Shura?
Like the Shura, they vote on things like the right.
Tahir? Okay, has anybody else heard that? A form of it?
Yeah, correct. It's not, but it's a form of it.
A form of it? Tahir? Anyone else? Anyone else believes that there's democracy in Islam? Ibrahim?
A form of it.
Form of it?
You used to see like people's opinions on something?
So you guys are all mistaken. There's no such thing as democracy in Islam at all whatsoever. Not a form of it, not as a tool to be used to see people's opinion. Wala is it shura. Not at all. That's not democracy in Islam. It's like saying there's water's on fire. It's like saying nighttime with the sun out. Okay, impossible. It doesn't work. Doesn't exist. Okay, no.
Didn't Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he gave like a few people like
So we're gonna get to these examples and we're gonna explain why it is not like democracy at all whatsoever. Okay. To begin, what is democracy defined as? In Latin, I think it is in Latin or in Greek, whatever the asl of the kalima is, democracy. Democracy. Okay, what does demo mean?
power.
People or something.
The word goes back to meaning rule of the people. Okay? Demo is like the people. Krasi is its rule, its implementation. Okay? So in Islam, do we have rule of the people? If you want to give Islam the same kalima, okay, with the same sound to it, be Islamocracy, not democracy. Okay? So we do not have, because in Islam it's rule of Islam, which is rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not rule of people. So let's analyze a little bit deeper, okay? Let's say we want to make a decision on a certain ruling which falls underneath the umbrella of the Sharia, okay? Which is a matter of khilaf amongst the ulama. For example, there's many masail fi Sharia, there's khilaf between the ulama, right? Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah. There's many masail in the Sharia, there's khilaf amongst the ulama, صح? Can someone give an example? And some mu'amalat.
Can a woman marry without the permission of the court?
Can a woman marry without the permission of a wali? Good.
No.
I'm just taking examples. What else? We're talking about mu'amalat here, because in the Sharia we also have ahkam or of khilaf, ibadat, but that's not going to be really. There's not going to be really like specific laws that's going to govern people's interactions, because interactions are different than ibadat. So, okay, so, naam?
Mortgage.
What is it?
Mortgage.
Mortgage?
Yeah. That was
Mu'amalat, yeah, but it's not. As-salam wa rahmatullah, tafadhal habib. A mortgage, it doesn't fall under a matter of khilaf, it's haram bil ijma'. Mortgage is haram. But what you can say instead of mortgage is bay' al-taqseet. No, bay' al-taqseet. Okay, bay' al-taqseet is what? Financing. Okay, this is مختلف عليه بين العلماء. Okay, بيع التقسيط, and even بيع التقسيط وزيادة الثمن للأجل. For example, you sell this phone costs $1,000, but because you're going to buy it off me in payments, I'm going to make the price $1,500 instead. Okay,
so it's permissible.
There's khilaf between the ulama. Okay.
What about when you said finances, اختلاف,
No, بيع التقسيط وزيادة الثمن. That's what I'm talking about this in specific. Because you were saying mortgage, and I'm trying to give a different example that has يعني some khilaf between the scholars, okay?
But you're still paying extra, right? Like when it's like $1,000 and
No.
you get like 1,500.
صح.
So isn't that riba instead?
No, it's not riba. The reason being is because the zaman, it has a thaman as well. Okay? Right now, for you to have the money right now, it's worth something. For you to get the money after 1 year, it's also worth something. Okay, so there's a khilaf between the ulama. Like some ulama, they say it's haram, just so you're aware. But there's khilaf between the ulama. Some ulama, they say it's Jews as well. Okay? I don't want to get into the fiqh debate, like the correct opinion, because that's not what the gharad is of what we're trying to mention here. Okay? So, is it permissible in Dawlat al-Islam, in Dawlat al-Qur'an, a state that governs by Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is it permissible to present this matter to the people for them to vote on it? A vote on which opinion of the ulama they want to adopt? And then based off of the vote's results, we're going to select that scholarly opinion, which is a valid opinion. Okay? Some ulama, for example, in the mas'ala of الزواج من دون wali, the Ahnaf, the Hanafi madhab, there's an opinion that you can marry without a wali. A woman can marry without a wali. So, let's say in the Dawlat of Islam, they make a vote. Say, the A'imma, they said, Zawaj without a wali is batil. And there's a qawl and Abu Hanifa, Zawaj without a wali, yajuz, permissible. So let's do a vote amongst the Muslimin in Dawlat al-Qur'an, and we're going to see which scholarly opinion that actually exists. It's not like some batil we're just making up. It actually exists, okay, in the Sharia. Which scholarly opinion are we going to employ based off of the vote of the people? We're going to give them the option to select which scholarly opinion. You choose to do that? Anyone think that's permissible to do? That's not permissible bil-marra at all whatsoever. Okay? That is not permissible at all. It's not acceptable at all whatsoever. Okay? So, in Islam, there's ways to conclude or derive what's the most correct opinion in a fiqhi matter. Okay? Presenting it to the masses so they can vote and rule by the majority vote, according to what, the scholarly opinions that exist, this is not one of the ways. This is called what? This is called dalal. It's called misguidance. Okay? By the way, just like a separate point, is some people, they mistake democracy with voting. Okay, democracy and voting are two different things.
What's the difference?
Voting is a tool that can be implemented to see popular opinion. Voting is a tool that can be used. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Voting is a tool that can be used to see popular opinion. شباب تفسحوا في المجالس. Come. If you can just make room, shabab, jazakumullahu khairan, so the ikhwa can come in. Barakallahu fikum. Jazakumullahu khairan. So, voting is a tool that can be used to determine or analyze popular opinion. Democracy is something else. Like we said, it's rule for the people by the people. It's something different. Democracy, or what we have today called a representative democracy, which is several governments in the West they use voting also as a tool to elect their person who's going to govern on their behalf. Okay, but voting in and of itself is not democracy. They're two different things. Okay? So, let's see another example to dive a little bit deeper. Tamam? Let's say there's a government of the Islamic State. The government has surplus funds and they want to see how to spend this money. Okay? Either they're going to spend it in a ta'aleem, teaching Quran, for example. They're going to spend the surplus money that the Dawla has on Quran teaching. Or they're going to spend it in jihad fi sabilillah. Or they're going to spend it in production or agriculture. Okay? Is this matter one that should be decided on by the masses by way of voting? What do you guys think? Can we do that?
It's permissible, yeah. I want to say it's permissible.
Is this a matter that should be decided by the masses by way of voting?
Not should or can it be? Those are two different questions.
Should or can it be?
Yes, I say it can be.
It can be? Type should it?
That's a different question.
Should it? Okay.
It depends.
It depends. If the benefit is purely like a dunyawi benefit, okay? And people are living just to live. and seeking to satisfy their pleasures and desires to the fullest extent, and to preserve the nafs simply for preserving the nafs, which is the ideology of what? We said? A secular state, how a secular, like a non-religious people live their life. Okay? Then all of the people of the state are equal, and it makes sense for everyone to have a say. صح? If it's purely dunyawi, everyone's mata' is the same as everyone else. Everyone needs to get the fullest extent of pleasure in their life. Everyone's equal in that regard. Through this lens of secularism, then it makes sense for everybody's vote to be the same, for everyone's voice to be equal. صح? Okay? And therefore for their say to be considered as well. As everyone in such a state is most knowing of what's good for their pockets, their private parts, their stomachs, and their desires, right? Everyone's most knowing of what's good for their desires. So in a secular state, it makes sense. صح? طيب, but however, in an Islamic state where people are living for the akhirah, and people are striving to attain al-Jannah, and they're seeking out the best options to have a safe commute from this dunya to the akhirah, then in this type of state, is it conceivable that everyone's opinion is equal and should be taken into consideration? Is it? Since you said it can't be, is it? What do you think?
No, I was replying to that specific question.
صح, but now with this in consideration, is it?
If assuming the population, they all have that same goal in mind as the akhirah, then yeah, why not?
Why not? I'll tell you why not. So the answer is definitely not. Definitely not. Why? Because قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوَى الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, are they the same, the people that have knowledge and the people that don't have knowledge? You're going to tell me the opinion of a Shaykh, Talib, Ilm, Alim, Ulama al-Muslimin is the same as a Ami who doesn't know how to read and write? How is he going to tell us what's the best decision to use that surplus money in order to ikhtim the fikrah we're using it to get to Jannah as a Dawla versus the Alim and Ulama al-Muslimin? The opinions cannot be the same. They won't be the same. Does that make sense? Okay. Like a Shaykh or a Alim, he's aware of al-maslaha al-shar'iyya. Al-Ammi, he doesn't know al-maslaha al-shar'iyya. All he knows is his daily ibadat. He doesn't know, compare the one who's hafiz al-Qur'an wal-ahadith and he knows the usul and everything, compared to somebody who doesn't know anything about the deen, except his salah and whatnot, just gets by. Okay, their opinions aren't the same. Okay? Like a layman jahil is not comparable to a alim. Okay? And they don't know what's the best for the people through the lens of Islam. Okay? That's why in Islam, the ulama stated it's a condition for the hakim, or the ruler, to be a mujtahid mutlaq fi din. Okay, this is classical ulama. They say that it's a condition for the hakim, the ruler, the government, to be a mujtahid mutlaq. What does that mean? What's a mujtahid mutlaq? Anybody know?
General, like a judge.
No. Anybody else have any? Excuse me. Anyone else have any?
What?
A mujtahid mutlaq.
Like the highest level of like you can make ijtihad.
Exactly, the highest level of making ijtihad. An example of mujtahid mutlaq is like Imam Ahmad, Imam Malik, the four a'imma. Okay, and mujtahid mutlaq is the highest level of ijtihad. Okay, so the ulama classically they said that the alim, the hakim has to be mujtahid mutlaq. Okay, because the most important role for the ruler in Islam is to preserve the deen of the people, right? That's why it's called wali amr. He's a wali, he's a guardian of the amr. Amr what? Amr ad-din, right? But if such a hakim doesn't exist, which in this zaman, even Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said in his zaman, as far as my memory serves me correct, Ibn Taymiyyah says in his zaman, it's impossible for anybody to ever become a mujtahid mutlaq ever again. Okay? Why?
Too far from the original language.
Exactly, because they're too far away from the original pure Arabic language. Because they're too far away from the actual language of Arabic, the original language of Fasih, al-Fusha, therefore nobody can ever attain the daraja of mujtahid mutlaq ever. Because obviously the nusus of Islam is in what language? It's in Arabic. Okay? So if such a hakim doesn't exist, if the ruler isn't a mujtahid, then the mujtahideen or the ulama must be a counsel to the hakim, okay, as a substitute. And they have to give him instructions and guidance for how to rule. Okay, it's wajib for the hakim to have ulama as a counsel. Okay, it's wajib. Tamam. So we get to shura. The brother he mentioned like shura, okay? Islam encourages and recommends shura, صح? What's the ayah? Anybody know?
وأمرهم شورى بينهم.
والذين استجابوا لربهم وأقاموا الصلاة وأمرهم شورى بينهم ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. What surah is that in? Surah Shura. Okay, verse number 38. And those who have responded to their Lord and established the salah, whose affair is determined by consultation among themselves, and from what we provided them they spend. So the next question here, is shura obligatory in Islam?
Yeah. Did you just say? Yeah.
Did I just say it? Didn't just say no.
You said it's wajib for the...
No, I said it's wajib for the hakim to have a council of ulama if he himself is not a mujtahid.
It is.
Talking about shura now. Is shura obligatory in Islam? Qatada, what do you think?
I think it's highly recommended, but I'm not sure if it's
needed.
If it's needed, it's obligatory? And if it's needed? And if it's not needed, afwan?
I think it's highly recommended because the Prophet did it.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Sahaba did it like after his death, yeah.
Tamam. Okay. Shura is divided into three levels. Sometimes shura is wajib, sometimes shura is haram, and sometimes it's mustahab. Okay? Some examples. In the instance where the hakim, the ruler, he doesn't know what the most correct opinion is in a matter. Okay? In this case, when he is presented with such a matter, he doesn't have knowledge in it, it becomes mandatory on him, it's obligatory on him to make shura. Okay, with the scholars, so he can come to know the most correct opinion and then determine the decision he's going to make. It's common sense, right? The hakim doesn't know his ruling, he's just going to judge just off rock, paper, scissors to make a decision. No, he's going to ask the ulama and he's going to consult them to get the most correct opinion to know how to deal or make a decision. صح? So in that case, it's shura becomes wajib. Okay? In the second instance, shura is haram. It's haram to make shura. Okay? Can someone think of a time or an instance where shura would become haram?
Like when the matter is clear.
Yeah.
And then
when the hakim knows the ruling.
No.
It's against the Shah of Allah, like whether like legalize alcohol, for example.
صح, صدقت. If the hakim knows the hukum, that means it's haram, he's not allowed to ask anyone?
Well, why would he?
What if it's...
What if he wants to get reinforcement to know like for sure he's on the haqq?
So if somebody comes and says, hey, is drinking alcohol haram, or somebody, what's it called, he's going to have to do shura for that?
No. The question was, when is shura haram? Yeah, well, you're saying like what I'm asking is, so if the hakim knows alcohol is haram, okay? Well, actually, you're leaning to the right position, but it's not. But if he knows the answer, it doesn't necessarily become haram. And that's not the factor is not if he knows the answer.
Okay.
The factor is if it's an amr that's qat'iyya fi din. For example, akhi, you have a question?
What if it's أخف الضررين?
What do you mean أخف الضررين?
Like if they're presented with two, like in a situation, like where they have to choose,
That's gonna, in the next 5 minutes I should answer your question, inshallah, okay? Let's say in the Dawla al-Islam, zakat al-mal is how much? How much percentage on your wealth?
2.5.
It's 1/40th of your, or 2.5%. Tamam? So in this case, can the hakim say that we're going to make a shura? If we're going to increase it to 3%? Or we're going to decrease it to 1%? No, it's haram for him to make a shura in this. Why? Because that's qat'iyya fi din. Yani it's no ifs, ands or buts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala athbata, that's it. Okay? Khamr is haram. Is a hakim going to come say, you know what, let's make shura, maybe we'll make it halal now? No, it's haram to do. Okay? Number 3 is when shura is mustahab, okay, and recommended, and that's when the hakim, he has knowledge regarding the matter and is able and equipped to research it himself, okay, and he has ghalib al-dhan, yani anybody know a good translation for ghalib al-dhan? You guys all know what that means, right? غالب الظن. غالب الظن يغلب على ظنك. يعني you're most likely thinking something, okay? Like when you're like, يعني for example, when you're more than like 51% sure, when you're 51% sure of something and above, up to like 99%, that's a غالب الظن. يعني you're most likely you believe something to be such way, okay? So if the hakim has knowledge regarding it, he's able and equipped, he can do the research, he has the resources, he has ghalib al-dhan regarding the ruling or the correct choice, in this instance, it's recommended for him to make shura. Okay? It's not necessarily wajib for him because he can actually do the research and he can come to the conclusion. And it's not haram for him to do that as well. Okay? So clearly, does any of this up until now resemble democracy? No, it does not. Okay? So how is the final opinion determined and whose opinion is considered? Okay? To go back to when we're consulting the people. Alright? Do we make equal the opinion of a PhD holder in economics and a person who does not know how to read when they're coming to decide how to use the surplus money of the Dawla? Of course not. You guys understand, like in Islam, we don't have that. This is foolishness Islam doesn't bring. Islam doesn't have this type of foolishness within it. Okay? Islam is a religion that is perfect, it is logical. We would never equate someone who's like a jahil, he doesn't know how to count to 10, doesn't know how to read, with someone who's PhD in economics. Okay? So, the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't contain any of this nonsense. Okay? While it is found in modern secular democratic states, they claim that this is intellectual strength and structure. You know, everyone's given equal voice. They take pride in that, okay? When in reality, in modern secular states, is that really what happens, aslan? No, it's not. Even though they advertise it like that, that's not really what happens. Okay, what happens in reality, in the West, what happens? Who can tell us?
No one qualified takes precedent.
They don't really equalize the opinions of the PhD expert versus the layman in the West. Even though they claim everyone's equal, everyone has equal voice, they don't really, in practice, that's not what happens. And what's really done is the elite, they conjure up and they structure laws and legislation. Then they present it to the masses along with the pros and the cons of slightly varying options. Okay, so then people are given the illusion that they're able to analyze and to see what they think is better, what they think is worse. And then they're given restricted options to choose from. Okay, an example between Trump and Harris. Okay, are they that much different?
Not the same.
They're very, very similar, but people are given the illusion. Okay, some people, masakin, they think that this person, Harris, is gonna aid Israel, and Trump is gonna stop the war, and they're so set on this. But in reality, like, are they that much different? If you actually go into, you see what Trump means when he says stop the war, and you understand what he means by that. Are they that much different? Okay, so what they try to do is they present these restricted options to the masses, and it's just all a tactic to brainwash them. And then they make them believe that their voice or their vote matters, and that they had a role in selecting policies or legislation, while the ultimate options for outcome were already studied, they're already planned, they're already prepared, and they're presented to the people. Okay? So this is how the West operates. Okay?
What do you mean? Like what? We already know the outcome. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that they already have all of this studied. Do you think they present just something and the complete total outcome of it is just left up in the air? Of course not. They already know, they're already in cahoots with one another. They already know the ultimate outcome. Yeah, they have a certain way of doing things, they differ a little bit, but ultimately the outcome is going to be very similar or slightly different. So this is already planned and studied from a long time ago, okay? And then they just give the illusion to the people where their voice matters, okay? So in Islam, if the hakim, he set up a council of 10 ulama or PhD holders, okay, and he makes shura with them regarding a decision, is he bound by the majority opinion? No, he is not. Okay? If you make a vote, that's why I wanted to get to the next point. If you make a vote in Islam, okay, you ijtama al-ulama with each other, the experts in economics, you want to figure out how to use surplus money. Is the hakim bound by the majority vote?
No.
No, he is not. Aslan, in Islam, in matters of fiqh, does the majority opinion always mean it's correct? No, it doesn't. Okay? So in Islam, we don't have rule by the majority. Majority rules, this doesn't exist in Islam. Okay? It could, a surah of it, or an example of it, an instance of it could take place, but that's not the ultimate rule in Islam. Okay? Majority rules doesn't exist in Islam. So then to go to the example which Akhuna mentioned, with Umar radiallahu anhu. Actually, no, this is a little bit different example, okay? So Umar radiallahu anhu, one time, when he was Khalifat al-Mu'mineen, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Khalifat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he was walking down the street, a woman seen him, and she got scared. A pregnant woman seen him, she got scared, and she miscarried. Okay, due to her fright from Umar. Alright? Excuse me. So, Umar radiallahu anhu, he made shura with some of the Sahaba on how to deal with this. Abdurrahman ibn Auf, and I think Uthman radiallahu anhuma, they said that the diya, the blood money, it's not required. Then Ali radiallahu anhu was asked, and Ali said it is required. So Umar took the opinion of who? Ali radiallahu anhu. So he took the minority opinion. Okay? So let me see the hadith here. So in the hadith it mentions, it's collected by al-Bayhaqi in his Sunan, that Umar radiallahu anhu, when he was walking in his path, this woman, she seen him and she was frightened by him. So her body had contractions. She was a pregnant woman. Her body had contractions, and then she dropped her hamal. Yani her pregnancy was aborted, and then the child, when the child came down from the woman, the child screamed 2 times and then died. So then Umar radiallahu anhu, he made shura with Ashab Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then some of them, they said that there's no diya upon him because he is a governor and his mu'addab. Yani Umar didn't really do anything, right? Is he like held accountable for his appearance frightening somebody? No, he didn't do nothing, right? And then from amongst the Sahaba was Ali radiallahu anhu. And Ali, when he heard what the Sahaba said, he was silent. Then Umar radiallahu anhu asked Ali. Then he said, what do you say, Ya Abu al-Hasan? What do you say, O Abu al-Hasan? Then Ali said, إن كانوا قالوا برأيهم فقد أخطأ رأيهم. Said, if they said their opinion, then their opinion was mistaken. وإن كانوا قالوا في هواك فلم ينصحوا لك. And if they said by your hawa, your desires, they just said whatever they know it's in accordance with your whims and desires, then they weren't good advisors to you. Then he said, إن الدية عليك. إن الدية عليك عفوا. So then he said, verily the diya, the blood money, is upon you. لأنك أفزعتها فألقته. فقال عمر أقسمت عليك ألا تبرح حتى تقسمها على قومك. So then Umar radiallahu anhu, he took Ali's opinion, and that's what he proceeded with, even though it was the minority opinion. Tamam? Another example, a misconception when it comes to choosing the leader. Okay? Some people that are in support of Islamic democracy, supposedly, like between quotations, okay, they might say, wasn't Uthman chosen by the way of democracy? As the Akh just mentioned. Okay? So the question is, who chooses the leader in Islam? How is the leader chosen? They go to the ballots? Or to the polling station?
Most knowledgeable.
By the previous ruler? The most knowledgeable? Who chooses the leader in Islam? The Amir when he's dying?
No. Don't they do like a shoot and they pick the best one?
They shoot and they pick the best one? So in Islam, the people that choose the shura, they're called Ahl al-Halli wal-Aqd, who are the people of authority and knowledge. Okay? They're like the elite or the scholars, the people of authority, the people that are rightfully influential. Okay? Which is in contrast to the shura. Okay, so for the shura, it's not a condition that Ahl al-Halli wal-Aqd are the ones you must consult. It's not a condition when you're making shura that the people you're consulting are Ahl al-Halli wal-Aqd. That's not a condition in shura. Okay? They can be someone who's khabir, is an expert, someone who's a alim, a scholar. It doesn't have to be Ahl al-Halli wal-Aqd. Okay? So classically, Ahl al-Halli wal-Aqd are like people that are like people in authority or ulama. Okay? So that goes to ask the question, how was Uthman radiallahu anhu brought into power? This is a matter, by the way, which there's lots of shubuhat surrounding. Okay, how was Uthman radiallahu anhu brought into power? Naam, ya akhi.
So you said Ahl al-Hali wal Aqd, those are like the scholars you go to for like choosing the hakim?
Though Ahl al-Hali wal Aqd are the ones who are responsible for choosing the hakim. They're not the scholars you go to, they are the ones responsible for choosing the hakim.
Okay.
Okay?
And when you're doing shura, you don't have to go to those ones in specific?
Yeah, for shura, because what's Ahl al-Hali wal Aqd, they're people of authority. Okay? They're people of authority.
So they're not necessarily scholars.
Yani classically they are like the people of power or the ulama, or actually both of them combined rather. Okay, classically. But there could be someone who's a alim and is not Ahl al-Hali wal Aqd. There could be someone who's an expert who's not Ahl al-Hali wal Aqd. There could be an economic PhD person who's an expert in economics. He can give shura when it comes to how to spend money in the dawla, but he's not Ahl al-Hali wal Aqd, right? So there's a difference between the two. A shura requires a person who has expertise in what you're asking. Okay? I need a question in economics, I go to people who have expertise in economics. I have a question in military, I go to a person who has expertise in military. This is what shura requires. Choosing the hakim requires Ahl al-Hali wal Aqd, who is the people of authority, which is classically speaking the ulama. Okay? The scholars of Islam.
So they're the shura by themselves. Ahl al-Hali wal Aqd, they're a shura by themselves.
No, يعني kind of. I don't want to say like exactly, but kind of, just depends. Because if you actually look at, which I don't want to go too much into detail, I just want to use this one example of Uthman radiallahu anh. But if you look at how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, look at Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. How is Abu Bakr chosen? How was Umar chosen? How was Uthman chosen? How was Ali chosen? All differently. Sah? They're not all chosen the same way. Did Rasulullah make shura to choose Abu Bakr? No, he didn't. But Rasulullah instructed in various ways that Abu Bakr would be the leader after him. Radiallahu anh. Okay, so that's not shura, right? The same, likewise, how Umar was selected. Or likewise, that how Uthman was selected is different than the way that Ali was selected, right? Also, and then after Ali, there was a power struggle, right? After Al-Hassan, there was a power struggle, Al-Hussein, and then the other people that came after him, Muawi, Yazid, right? So there's not always selected by shura, okay? So how was Uthman brought into power? So like I said, it's a matter of misconception. Refutation number one, people that say that Uthman was chosen by way of democracy, okay, is that Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he restricted the leadership after him into 6 people. Umar radiallahu anhu, he restricted who would be the next candidate to lead after him to 6 people. Alright? So it wasn't everyone just going to vote for whoever they want and then we're going to see who has majority vote and that's not how it was. Next refutation is Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu an. He went out to the people of Al-Madinah only to consult them regarding who should be chosen out of the 6. Even though in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, the Futuhat that were taking place, the expansion of the Dawla of Islam, had reached Libya and Sudan in the west, and it reached Iran in the east. So Dawla of Islam was huge, the empire of Islam was very, very vast, right? Did Abdurrahman ibn Auf send out messengers to all the different dual to go get their opinions? No, he consulted who? Ahl al-Madinah bas. Just the people in Al-Madinah. Therefore, you can say at such a time, yani, if it went from all the way from like Libya to Iran, that was the whole Dawla of Islam and everything between them. Medina is one city. It makes up, let's say, about 5% of the population of Muslimin. Okay? But at the time, so at the time it's about 5%, we'll say, okay? Maybe even less, Allahu A'lam. Anyways, when the people of Medina were consulted, did they look at the majority vote too? Did they look at the majority vote? No. There was a consensus at the time that it should be Uthman. So there was ijma' amongst Ahl al-Madinah that Uthman should be the next Khalifa.
Where did he get those 6 people from?
Umar?
Did they run a campaign and get nominated?
Did they? Did they put up signs on people's lawn?
No.
Did they go visit schools and masajid? Pass out pamphlets? No. Umar selected them based off of
Their leadership.
His own knowledge.
based off of him being the second best of the ummah, his knowledge, knowing who is the most suitable for the position. Okay?
Was any of them his kids?
What do you say?
Was any of them the kids of Umar? No. No. So
Would you say the people of Medina or just like the scholars?
So that's another thing. Okay, he's saying, would you say just the scholars of Medina or the people of Medina? So that's obviously another point, okay, to make. So there was a consensus that Uthman was to be the Khalifa. Let's say there was not a consensus, okay? Was Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu, was he going to equalize the votes of every citizen of Medina?
No.
Is he going to, al-adhara fi khidriha, you guys ever heard this phrase before? The virgin in her room, okay? It's a phrase used like to show like such a chaste, humble, protected woman. Like obviously, the women of our time aren't like the women of the previous times. The women of our time, even the virgin, chaste women in their homes, they still have access to news, to their phones and all this stuff. Back in the days, the women that were in their homes, they don't know anything of the outside world pretty much. Okay. They're just in the rooms. They don't know what's going on in the outside world at all whatsoever. So in that time, imagine, was Abdurrahman bin Auf going to equalize the vote of a girl who's, just at home, in the protection of her home, doesn't know anything about the outside world, and compare that to the opinion of Zubair radiallahu an, or Talha, or Aisha radiallahu anhum? Of course not, okay? Therefore, there's no such thing as democracy in Islam, even if someone is trying to or able to make a slight resemblance. It doesn't exist. Okay? It doesn't exist at all whatsoever. Is that clear, brothers?
So democracy means when majority rules, right? That's what it means, right?
Democracy means rule for the people, rule of the people, for the people, by the people.
Okay, so the majority. Right?
There's different systems within democracy itself. Okay? There's different ways of democracy. What's common in today is called representative democracy. There's different ways of how they use it. Anybody have any questions about that democracy before we proceed? No.
But I didn't get I didn't understand the answer.
You don't understand the answer? What answer to what question?
Because you said that you consult Ahl wal Aqd.
Mm-hmm.
Then you said here you went to the people of Medina. Is it one time thing?
No, the people of Medina were Ahl al-Hali wal-Aqd.
He went to them.
Okay. So do you think he went to the little like I said, the very chaste, shy virgin girls in their homes, and he was asking them to get their votes? Or was he going to people like Zubair radiallahu anhu and the Sahaba around him? Right, he's going to obviously the knowledgeable, the aware, righteous, suitable people. Alright? Naam ya akhi.
There's some people right now they say if there's Islamic candidate in a non-Muslim country or some non-Muslim that's in favor for the Muslims, you could in that case vote. Is that true?
No, it's not true. You cannot vote.
He uses some examples of everything from what you have taught.
Such as what?
He said there's an example of democracy. I didn't say
I'll tell you right now, before you even tell me, it's a very sad way they're trying to just get anything to try to use an example. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he allowed people to be chosen as a hakim in dunillah. Mustahil. Of course he didn't. That's mustahil. They didn't choose that. What people have to understand in a representative democracy, in the democracy we live in today, okay, is that when the person goes to vote, we said voting is an act of shirk akbar. How? Who's the voter is doing shirk with who? Who is he associating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
The government. The
person is voting for.
The person is voting for? Who else?
creation.
Himself as well. Why? The person is voting for what? He's voting for fulan to represent him, to make legislation on his behalf. So he's making himself and the representative a حاكم من دون يعني the one who بيحكم من دون الله سبحانه وتعالى. Okay? So therefore, in this system, voting, the tool of voting, okay, the use of voting in a representative democracy, this system, this application, it's shirk. The action is shirk akbar. So without a doubt, يعني, without even knowing the statement, without a hair of a doubt, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah absolutely never allowed that. Especially because we mentioned Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, and his ijma' that he mentioned was somebody, they were to rule by التوراة or الإنجيل, what was الحكم المنسوخ of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then kafar bil ijma'. So how can he say that somebody is allowed to go vote on their behalf and make it? Impossible. But obviously people will try to scatter together whatever they can to support their opinion, their views. Okay?
Isn't there اختلاف on whether it's shirk akbar or shirk asghar?
No.
Is it considered shirk akbar?
Shirk akbar, yeah. Shirk akbar.
Whether it's halal or haram, right? Well, between some shuyukh.
Nowadays, it's as if there's no ikhtilaf. It's 100% halal, the way that people make it out to be. But in reality, I just want you guys to understand something, okay? So you have a question? What is it?
Oh, you finish.
Okay. So let's say, for argument's sake, there's a person, he's a Muslim, he's running for a party in the government. He's running. We even see them here. They come to the masjid, they want to talk at the masjid to the Muslimin and get their votes. They're running for the liberal party, they're running for the conservative party. Okay? And some of them have won before, and they've actually been members of the parliament. Okay? Come on. Are these people, at the end of the day, what is their stance when it comes to the ahkam around them that's taking place? Are they going to say, because I'm a Muslim, in al-hukmu illa lillah, so any hukm that we're going to bring has to be from the Qur'an and the Sunnah? Are they going to say that? No, of course not. طيب. Then what's their stance then? When it comes to the masail that come into play, what's their stance? The conservative party, what's their stance? The liberal party, what's their stance when it comes to masail? LGBTQ. Is a liberal going to come and say this is munkar, this is qawm lut, this is kufr, this is... No. The representative holds the ideology of the party. The representative بيخدم فكرة الparty. At the end of the day, that's how it is. Okay? Which, by the way, on top of that, we've seen people of these parties, we've seen liberal Muslims in the liberal party, Muslims in the conservative party, they never ever قدموا وأخروا anything to help the Muslimin, ever, at all whatsoever. Bring me one example. One example, just so we can present it. مستحيل, you won't find. Never happened. It didn't happen here in Canada at all. Never happened. Okay? What's unique, by the way, I never knew this could happen. I never knew this was actually a thing. In the UK, they have MPs that can be elected that are mustaqillin. They have no party. You guys know that before? Gharib. I never knew that before until recently. Okay? Can you? Allahu alam. I don't know if this is you can do it here. Allahu alam. I don't know.
Everywhere, like America too, independent.
طيب, imagine. So let's say here. So I'm going to use the UK as an example because there is some guy who's multahi, even he looks like a Muslim. He has a long beard, trimmed mustache, as a Muslim Pakistani guy. He's an independent MP, no party. When he went, he's currently in the House of Parliament in the UK. When he was talking about current day وضع in Gaza, okay, when he came to say, imagine a Muslim, he was elected by the Muslimin probably, because he's going to يخدم فكرة المسلمين, صح? He's a religious looking guy. When he came to speak about the problem of Gaza and the Yahud and everything, what do you think he said? قاتلوا الذين لا يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر. You think that's what he said? What do you think he said? He said that we condemn what happened October 7th. Why? Because at the end of the day, he's a member of the UK government. His position is not going to differ from them much. Are you guys following me? So if for argument's sake we're going to say it's permissible للضرورة. Okay, for argument's sake, it doesn't work. Like in practice, it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked up until today. It's not working, and it won't work. It hasn't worked, even in the instance where the person's independent, because at the end of the day, they're part of that system. The Muslims have to understand, which is why we're taking this series of durus, is that the system isn't changed like that from within. You're not going to be going to the House of Parliament and every MP is going to become Muslim muttaqi and they're going to become Khalifatul Muslimin. That's not how it works. Okay, the system is changed externally in Islam. It's going to be changed externally, not internally. Okay, is that clear? Tamam. Okay, so the next. Anyone have any other questions before we proceed?
No, I just want to go back to the, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
The 6 that Umar selected, because this is very important. Because when you look in the Muslim world today, did you guys mention the 6? I wasn't paying attention.
And I didn't name them, no.
Can anybody name them?
We know Uthman was definitely one of them.
Ali was one of them.
Zubair was one
Sa'd
of them.
ibn Abi Waqqas.
Zubair, right?
Okay.
No one.
Yeah. How many did you say? 4.
That's 4 so far.
4. Abdurrahman bin Auf.
That's 5.
That's 5.
I already said that.
Did you?
Still 4, yeah. Ali, Uthman, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, that is 1.
Okay, what about...
Oh, you said Zubair?
Yes, it's Zubair, so it's 5.
Oh, that's 5, yeah.
So there's
So one more.
Was his son one? Abdullah ibn Umar?
No, it wasn't.
Talha.
Talha. What do those 6 have in common?
Oh, Sahaba.
They were Badris.
They're Mubashirin.
Mm.
They're from the Ashra Mubashirin bil Jannah. Yani, I just want you guys to get a sense of the criteria that Umar was going off of. That it wasn't like, that's why I mentioned it. And in our day and age, we would pick our son, we would pick our best friend, we would pick our, and he was going off of a solid foundation. Yani. It wasn't like, eeny, meeny, miny, moe, pick the guy you like the most or whatever. So we should, in whatever we're doing, have that kind of criteria for who's the best, who's the most on the sunnah, who's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala most pleased with. Obviously we don't have that kind of that anymore of anyone that's Mubashirin bil Jannah, but just to look at how they went through that process.
Yeah, the point is you set the bar high. The standard is set high. Okay, even if you don't like the person per se, maybe they're not, too fond of them as a person, but if they're the right person for the job, that Umar radiallahu anhu is selecting the cream of the crop amongst the Sahaba. Rasulullah promised them they're entering Jannah. It doesn't get much better than that. Jazakallah khair. Is there anything else you want to add, my bro? Barakallahu feek. Jazakallahu khairan. So the next point, the next heading here is علاقات الداخلية والخارجية, which translates to internal and external affairs. Okay, after everything we've come to know up until now, without a doubt, we know that the internal and external affairs of the Islamic State are completely different from that of a secular state. And the Quranic State is one holding a message, believing in the truth and trying to spread it to others in order to create a safe passage to Jannah. Therefore, these internal and external affairs of the Quranic State are very far from what we see today of modern states or UN regulations. Okay? Because the internal and external affairs of the Quranic State or the Islamic State, what are they going to serve? The internal and external affairs. The foreign and domestic policy of the Islamic State. What interest will it serve?
Just the Muslims.
The interest of Allah, the interest of the Muslims, but the preservation of their deen, protecting their deen, getting them to Jannah. That's what it's going to serve. not making them fulfill their pleasures and desires to the fullest extent. It's a way different plane يعني. Okay. The next heading. مسألة الحرية الشخصية, personal freedoms, you know. أنت حر وأنا حر. People like to say, they like to think, alright? In Islam, do citizens have personal freedom?
No.
You have your freedom and choice, nobody can infringe on it. We have that in Islam? To an extent. Ahsan, to an extent. Okay? But not according to the understanding of the secular West. Okay? Rather, in Islam, the citizens' personal freedoms, they're bound and restricted by the Sharia. Okay? For example, the West claims to believe in freedom of speech, right? Freedom of expression. They say. So they say. Without a doubt, it's not. We know that this is flawed. Okay. If somebody goes and says real Islam, does he have freedom of speech to say that? No, he doesn't. Okay. Anyways, in Islam, what's the ruling on someone who is an innovator or is a major da'i lil bid'ah? Is a major caller to innovation.
Under Islamic law.
In Islam, na'am. What's the ruling on him?
That he's spreading falsehood?
Bid'ah, na'am.
The had.
Huh?
The had.
So, na'am.
I was going to say, before the had, if he keeps doing corruption, then you have to first give him nasiha.
So we don't have a had. By the way, the word had is a prescribed punishment in the Sharia. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this punishment for this sin. That's a had. Rasulullah said this punishment for this sin. That's a had. When we have punishments that exist in the Sharia, they're legislated, but they're not specifically prescribed, they're called ta'zir. Okay? Ta'zir. Like for example, we know that the had for zina is 100 lashes for the person that's not married. Right? And according to some ulama, and exiled from the earth, from the land, afwan. We know for the al-muhsan, the person who's been married, it's stoned to death, and according to some ulama, and 100 lashes before. Okay? So let's say a guy, a man and a woman, they're not married, they're not halal for each other, they're caught somewhere, they're kissing each other. Can we say that we're going to apply the had to them? No, because there's no had for that. What we apply is the ta'zir. The judge can yaqdi bihukum to punish them according to, and let's say they're a young man, a young woman, they've never been married before, okay? And they're found kissing someone, making out in some place, and they're discovered by the shurta, okay, in Islam. Is the judge going to say, okay, 100 lashes? No, because zina is 100 lashes. And zina is much greater than just kissing, right? So the judge is going to give a hukum. The ulama, they say he cannot go over the asl of the had that's in that bab, yani. You know? If the zina is 100 lashes, you can't say we're going to give him 200 lashes. We can't do that. They're going to give me maybe 10 lashes, 20 lashes, something, yani that's munasib, okay? So Ibn Taymiyyah says, rahimahullah, with regards to someone who's a caller to innovation and will not take heed from being warned or punished, then he should be killed even if we do not declare him to be a kafir. Okay? So a mubtadi', even if we don't call him a kafir, he's ma'adhur bil-jahl, bil-ta'wil, whatever, but he's calling to bid'ah and he's warned, he's given some lighter punishment, he doesn't take the warning. He's still insistent, he's going to call to his bid'ah. Okay? If nothing else will work except killing him, Ibn Taymiyyah says, kill him. Okay?
Would we say the Nasr Ta'zir of Ibn Taymiyyah? Because it's not a had itself, right?
It's not a had. It's not a had, but it's like a ta'zir. Okay? Or
Can even though Ibn Taymiyyah obviously is Shaykh Islam, he said something like this.
you know what, this example in specific, it may be called a had because like had al-haraba, or like the one that's making fasad fil ard. It's a little bit wasi', that title, to make fasad fil ard. Maybe it can be considered a had. Allahu a'lam. Depends how the ulama look at it. But Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, what's unique is he says that this position, that he can be put to death, he said this is the position or the opinion of the majority of the Salaf. Okay? And you'll find in the Majmu' al-Fatawa of Ibn Taymiyyah, if you deal with this person's doing so and so, and you try to advise him, وَإِلَّمْ قُتِلْ, many times he repeats this. And if not, he's killed. And if not, he's killed many times, even if he's not a kafir. Even if he's a Muslim, he's a ma'adhur bil-jahl, he has a bid'ah mukaffira, whatever, but he's still a Muslim, you consider him a Muslim, still he can be put to death. Why? Because preserving the deen comes precedence to preserving his nafs. So he's going to preserve, the Qadi is going to preserve the deen of the people by protecting them from being exposed to this bid'ah by sacrificing the nafs of this mubtadi'. Okay? And we have a very beautiful example in Al-Amir Khalid bin Abdullah al-Qasri, rahimahullah, in which he executed Ja'd bin Dirham. I think many of you guys know this story, صح? Khalid al-Qasri, rahimahullah, he was an Amir in the early centuries of Islam. Ja'd bin Dirham was who? He's like the first Jahmi. Actually, Ja'd bin Dirham is the teacher of Jahm bin Safwan. Okay? So he's like one of the most greatest innovators, mubtadi'ah, that existed. The whole like fitna of khalq al-Qur'an and all this nonsense. Ja'd bin Dirham, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't speak and all this kind of stuff, and nafi the sifat. Ja'd bin Dirham is the imam of that madhab, okay? Khalid bin Abdullah al-Qasri, rahimahullah, he was the wali, he was the governor, okay? He was the amir. On Eid al-Adha, he goes in the minbar, he gives the khutbah, he says, Ya ayyuhan nas, dahu taqabbal Allah dahayakum. He says, O you people, slaughter, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your slaughter. فإني مضح بالجعد بن درهم لأنه زعم أن الله لم يتخذ إبراهيم خليلا ولم يكلم موسى تكليما تعالى الله عما يقول الجعد بن درهم علوا كبيرا. Then he came off the minbar and he ذبح جعد بن درهم رحمه الله لخالد بن القاسري. He said, O you people, slaughter, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your slaughter. Verily I am going to make my udhiyah with Ja'd bin Dirham, because he said, he claimed that Allah never took Ibrahim as a Khalil and he never spoke to Musa. Ta'ala Allahu amma yaqul al-Ja'd. Allah is highly exalted above what Ja'd says. Uluun kabira. Then he walked down the minbar and he dhabah Ja'd. Okay? And the ulama mentioned this is one of the greatest hasanat of Khalid al-Qasri, rahimahullah. Okay, so he descended from the pulpit and then he executed him. Simply for what? And I'm going to try to conclude with this. Simply for what? Why did he execute him?
Well, it's not simple, but the guy was saying was complete kufr, right?
He was saying kufriyat, but it's simple what he was saying, how you said it. Was he doing, was Ja'd doing, was he killing, was he acting? No, he was saying, he was giving da'wah. He's giving da'wah to this bid'ah belief, okay? So his freedom of expression was going to corrupt the deen of the people. And in Islam, like we said, preservation of deen is priority than preserving the soul. So we don't allow the freedom of expression if it's going to cause the people to wind up in hellfire, okay? In a secular democratic state, they believe that everyone's words are equal and subject to the citizens' acceptance, which is completely rejected in Islam. In the West, they say you say whatever you want to say. You want to make naqad of him, you want to say this, you want to speak evil, whatever, they don't care. Everyone can say evil. Nah?
Do you do the same thing with the Shaykh and the
Maturidiyya? You cannot generalize with the madhab. Or people that have a whole madhab, no. Ja'd bin Dirham is different than the Asha'ira are still considered, al-Jahmiyya aslan. The ulama say the Jahmiyya, some of the ulama, they deem them that they're kuffar, are out of the fold of Islam, bil asl, the default. Al-Asha'ir and Maturidiyya, they're Muslimin bila shak. Okay, so you cannot compare the two, of course. But we're going to go, inshallah, we'll conclude in just a couple of minutes, brother, so just stick with me, inshallah. In Islam, we know that with certainty, we know that we're upon the pure and complete truth, and the people of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah are the ones on the pure, complete truth amongst the Muslimin. So anything that differs from this is completely unacceptable. In a secular state, what happens to someone who outwardly calls to and promotes murder? Can someone go and say, let's kill people? No. What's going to happen to him? He'll go to jail. Or maybe he'll be executed. Allahu A'lam, depends where he lives, okay? Because his freedom of expression has now infringed upon the freedom of expression and freedom of others overall, okay? So secular Islam, Sufism, Irja are all forms of Islam which are accepted by the West. Okay, true Islam, which believes in Muslim superiority, in da'wah, in jihad, in political Islam, and Islamic governance, this infringes upon the freedom of others in the West. Therefore, it's unacceptable. And people who hold such views are considered to be terrorists. Okay? I have one little small point and I'll conclude with this, inshallah. We have Dr. Umar Abd al-Rahman, rahimahullah. He was killed, or he died in 2017. Anybody ever heard of Umar Abd al-Rahman? A great alim in ulama al-Muslimin. He was Masri al-Asl. He was in prison in the United States for 30 years. He was blind. In prison for 30 years. And the Americans, they placed on his, in order to have his case opened, it was $20 or $25 billion. Okay? He was one of the ones that was part of the Jama'ah al-Islamiyya that took place in the execution of Sadat, and assassination of Sadat. He was a very well-known Shaykh, and very, very well-known. He was very well-versed, okay? Why was he imprisoned though? Anybody know? For inciting violence. For inciting, inciting killing or violence. Because he did nothing. Simply he said words. His words were threatening the greatest maslahah of the seculars, which is the nafs. So if someone's going to infringe upon the greatest maslahah for the Muslims, then we act accordingly. So the greatest maslahah for the Muslimin is what? Their deen. So freedom of speech is going to infringe upon the deen? No. Then it's treated accordingly, okay? And they may be put to death like a mubtadi', in the example we gave, if the harm won't cease in any other way. And there is an outro that's written in this chapter by the author. Perhaps we'll read it next time, inshallah. But I just want to make one last statement, and this is the final statement, the final sentence, is that the matter of al-istita'a wal-qudra, which is the ability of the Muslimin, is something completely different than what we take in theory and what would be the ideal case. Okay, that's a note from the author. So what we're learning today is theory. It's theory. What would be ideal. But the actual reality of the Muslims is dependent upon al-istita'a wal-qudra. Okay? So it's a very important note, whether they are actually capable or able of doing such things. Okay? With this, inshallah, we'll conclude. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka nabina Muhammad. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.